When did you start growing?
Fuck, like the end of 03.
That's fucking early.
Yeah, pretty early. I think my caregiver card was like 13,000 or something. It's like
You actually paid for one?
Well, it was just a med card or whatever,
Yeah.
not caregiver card.
Right.
You know, the Dr. Hani Assad or whatever.
You had to pay 13 G's to get one?
No. It was like
13.
Like number.
Oh, your number. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
early number in the game.
Dr. Hani Assad, yes.
Assad, yeah. Yeah, the dude was killing out his fucking nurses and shit, you know?
That's fucking awesome. I haven't heard that name in so long. That's wild. Yeah, there was like a worksheet in the front office.
Do you have a bad back? Do you have trouble sleeping?
Yeah, exactly. Like how you work this so that we make sure when you go in to see him that you have your shit, you know what I mean? So that you can tell him exactly what is wrong with you so that he can help you.
Yeah, no, it was a different time back then.
It was.
Down off Broadway in Oakland.
Yeah.
You know, the good old days, the OCBC and the Bulldog Cafe. That's
Berkeley Patient
That's
Group.
like OG Mecca, you know,
Yeah.
weed game right there. Doesn't get much more OG than that.
I know. Berkeley Patient Group back when it was fucking surrounded by barbed wire and
they upgraded
you
to
could
the
smoke
wrought iron
it.
fence.
You could smoke inside. You could borrow their fucking their volcanoes and sit in there and smoke on something that some other dude had been sucking on.
Yeah, I was more into the access to the genetics, honestly. I mean, it was cool to go in there and buy flour and stuff, but
You've always been into the genetics, huh?
yeah, I mean, flavor over everything, you know.
That's wild. See, I guess I just never had a palate like that. Weed was always weed to me. I always bought weed from the same person. Darren knows exactly who it is. It never had a fucking name.
Right.
It was just whatever it was.
I mean,
it was the same weed all the time.
The early days were kind of like that. Depend on who you fucked with, right? Like some guys were already in that strain realm, and guys were, you know, super silver haze and got what cat piss was like one of my. I wish I could find that cut. That'd be a winner now to me, anyways.
Yeah, I guess the people that I fucked with were just a little bit too urban for the strain.
Well, I mean, there's all walks everywhere, right? So it's all who you're dealing with.
You know, I was thinking about it, actually. I was just telling Darren, like, my cousin was trying to tell me that we needed to start a seed company back in, like, 2008. Yeah, and even then I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Like, seeds? We don't even grow with seeds. We grow with clones. Like, what the fuck are we going to start a seed company for? It's a terrible fucking idea. And now, like, looking back, like, that would have been a fucking great time to start a seed company.
Oh, man, yeah. That's, like, honestly one of my biggest regrets out of all the years is not, like, building any kind of brand, whether it was flower, genetics. It's just all those guys who got in early and who were smart enough to do that, like, are the guys crushing and killing the game right now.
Right.
You know, so that's, like, probably my biggest regret out of everything. But to genetics, I mean, one little plant is going to yield a fuck ton of seeds.
I know.
So
I know now.
It's very profitable, and, like, that brings me into another thing. Like, everyone that says, oh, I'm for the plant. Man, shut up. You're for the money, too. Like, you're for both. You can be for both, and, like, you know, I'm for both. I'll admit it. I'm here to make money and for the plant. Like, I love weed and I love money. So why is everyone putting on a front about...
Right. It's okay to be for both, right?
Yeah.
You didn't take those kind of risks in the beginning because you loved the plant and you wanted to help people. This is not an altruistic game.
Exactly. So that's, you know, everyone's trying to push their angle to make money. Right.
Who are those OG breeders that are still killing it right now?
Oh, man, honestly, like, the guys you never even heard about, like, until they kind of came out of the shadows. Guys like probably the real OG Kush story, and the guys who were the first guys with the OG, because OG is, like, pretty much the building block for everything we have today.
Right.
Cookies, I mean, you name it, except for even Skittles. I mean, Dude said yesterday what the Skittles had in it. It has OG in it. So, you know, I mean, it's pretty much the building block for all life that we know in the game.
Yeah.
Minus your little weirdo shit here and there, but...
Right, and that was Team Endo?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
But those are the guys that's the guy who really set everything on fire. I mean, $90 ace, $120 ace in LA, like $5,500 packs, like in NorCal. You know, you take them down to LA, they're another G. You know, like. Right. So that was really the strain that changed the game, was OG. Granddaddy in the early days, you know. My first like actual production run was Granddaddy, and it was 4,800 a pack back then, you know, in the East Bay.
Yeah, those were good times.
Good days. Granddaddy's, Urkel's. Didn't really get the OG till probably 05, 06, maybe 06, something like that.
That's still early.
Still pretty early.
That's a long time ago. You know, it's like 17 years ago.
Yeah, I guess, huh? You don't really think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
I'm getting old.
You got a pretty fucking impressive seed collection. Who do you?
You know, honestly, I didn't really get into the seeds until later in my career, because I would just rock OG forever, like over a decade, rocking it. Why are you going to grow anything else? That's what I used to tell people when I was running a hydro store. Like, why are you going to grow anything else? Nothing else is going to pay you. Nothing's going to give you that quick of edge. Nothing's going to yield like that. And it was just like the no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
You know? So to me, it was stupid to grow anything other than OG. Like, it was financially stupid.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I love smoking it, so it was like even more stupid. Why am I going to grow a bunch of bullshit, Blue Dream or this or that, or try some genetics? That's taking away production space.
Yeah. No, I totally.
And when you're taking them risks, you know, it's kind of a deal. You know, it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you buying seeds from now?
Shit, I got a little bit from everybody. You know. Clearwater Genetics, Seed Junkie, unfortunately, because of the way he's gone with his brand lately. But there's no denying there's still fire to be found in some of those packs that I got. Calculator, he's the Mac 1 guy. God, who else do I got? Thug Pug, he's a Michigan dude. Shit. A lot of Runts crosses, a lot of Skittles crosses. I'm a Z head, you know. I love Skittles now. Yeah. That's my flavor of smoke. Best thing taste wise to me is the Z terp.
Speaking of fucking legacy, what the fuck happened to Lux?
Man, they're smart is what happened. They got smart. They got offered $200 million from Hawthorne and accepted. And then Hawthorne killed the brand because they already have Gavita, they have Sunlight, they have multiple lighting brands. Why are they going to,
right?
You know, they just shelved them. And it's kind of unfortunate, though, because Lux had a huge push and a huge wave behind them. And now hell of people have those lights. It was actually a really smart play on their part, because eventually all that stuff will warranty out,
right?
Be obsolete and be gone and be out of grow rooms, right? It's only a matter of time. Unless they just built the best light in the game, which they pretty much did. So we'll see how long they last. But basically, all those dudes are going to have to re-up their lights at one time or another. Or any new spot is not going to be Lux now. And I don't know what their actual market share was or what their percentage of lights sold in the entire U.S. market was, but it was substantial, right. You know. So it was a power play on both parts. Like, that dude built that company from nothing. You know, he was a guy who was running, I think, hydro stores.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, kudos to him, man. He killed it. That dude came up. You know, he did it right, in my opinion.
What do you think about, so I was on a call with an investment banker the other day. I think I was telling you about this. Yeah. And obviously we put Lux, HPS in a new facility, right? And he was hooraying me for it.
Yeah.
And obviously the guy's a fucking nerd, but
yeah,
what's your thoughts on HPS versus LED?
It's really not like a savings. Like, they're talking about, you know, ROIs and all this.
Yeah, it pays for itself in a year or two.
You know, that's all cool and all, but like, yeah, you need double the DHU now. So DHU's put off some serious heat. So guess what? Now you need more AC, and your power bill's basically the same.
Right. You're paying for it one way or another.
And are you going to yield as hard? Is it going to be as dank? Depends on the variety. Like an OG, I mean, dudes were just talking about it last night that OGs are not hitting on the LEDs. They just don't have that stank. They're not greasy like an OG should be. And you know me, I'm all about flavor. So if it doesn't have grease, it's not going to have flavor. It's not going to have stank. It's not going to be loud when you open the bag. you know, that's what we're looking for. So why the fuck am I going to grow it? And
yeah.
to this day, like, I don't think I've still ever seen like super impressive canopies other than like Jungle Boys and shit who are pretty dialed with LEDs, especially in a double tiered grow. Like most of them are pretty pathetic. There's dudes out there crushing. Don't get me wrong. Like I got homies back in the legacy that are still running LEDs that are, you know, they're doing pretty good with them. They're killing it, but it's not the same.
No, I mean, it seems to me like that's kind of the corporate mids farmer route.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you can tell me that like a tiered grow that rack up top is getting as much attention as the bottom.
No, and even in a triple tiered grow where you got to fucking walk on a catwalk.
Yeah, I mean, plus your environment, you know, it's always, you ever get on a ladder and work in a fucking grow room? It's fucking hot up there. Like it's hard to get all that air like equalized. So, you know, I don't think they have their place, but they're not a 100% replacement yet, you know?
Right. I feel like what you know, obviously I grew, but what you're significantly much more sophisticated than I am. And what you guys were doing was kind of like an art form, and now you're working with Charlie, who's like a scientist. How has the transition been?
Charlie's, he's a good addition, man. Like that dude, not only is he way more organized than me, but he's, you know, he's on it. Like technical stuff, he's pretty good, you know. He knows scaling.
Right.
That's the big thing. He's got some big traditional ag experience, and you know, none of us had that. No. So we could irrigate a big plot, but there's certain little twists and tricks that he knows about, and pieces of equipment, and that kind of changes the game for it. Like that bucker that we just got. That bucker was like, that would have taken 20 guys 2 days to buck some of those biomass dry trailers. Now they're bucking it with 10 guys in half a day, you know, and it's like,
it's a game changer, yeah.
Pretty much a game changer. Plus, it's saving time on the processing side. Like, they're not going to have to grind now for the fucking disty, so that's...
And he knows about that because he has done commercial hemp before.
Yeah, and I think he had done or consulted on that dude's hemp farm. And that's how he knew about those machines sitting there. So, you know, we had our little bucking stands or whatever, but, you know, those are rudimentary compared to that thing.
I know, it's funny, too. I thought those were brilliant at the time.
They are. I mean, they work. It's just, it's not going to beat a fucking motor.
No,
you know?
No, absolutely not.
You want to ride a pedal bike? You want to ride a motorcycle? You know what I mean?
Definitely want to ride a motorcycle.
Where you're going quicker on the motorcycle.
Yeah, for sure. Has there been anything where you've been like, no, I don't like that. This is not how we do this.
Yeah, there's certain things like, you know, like the hemp industry, they don't really trellis all the time. Some guys do, depending on the region, but you have to trellis out here. Like,
too windy, too much rain.
Flowers are denser, they're heavier, it's windier, it's wetter out here. A lot more stress on the plant. Like, you've seen the windstorms out here. Like, you'll come and your fucking whole 10, 12 acres will be flat. You know, what are you going to do then? Fucking cry?
Yeah, pretty much.
Call the insurance.
Yeah, and in drier climates, they're drying in the fucking field.
Right, exactly. We did a little bit of field dry this year. Kind of played with it. It's definitely a viable option, weather dependent, right? Like, you can do it, but it's not a guarantee.
Is that what you guys were doing with some of the ones at the end?
Yeah, we cut water to them and pretty much left them on the vine to shrivel up, and we saved some dry time that way. It obviously browned on us, but it's distillate, so you know.
Yeah, for the portion of the plants that you're really not taking care of, like for smokable flower, it just kind of is what it is, right?
Exactly.
Does that hurt you seeing those plants
out there? You fucking slaved on that whole garden for, you know, 4 or 5, I mean longer than that, because we're starting production in December for mother stock, clone production, all that, you know. So you're talking the better portion of a year, and you're watching it fucking rot and go to shit. It's kind of, you know, dry facility, man. Got to get that dry facility.
I know, we got to get that shit straightened out. What one of the things that I was really interested in was how you guys propagated from, would you start with 44 mothers?
We started with 44 plants on like December 20th, 23rd, somewhere around there. And, you know, grew that into 25,000 plus cuttings.
Yeah.
You know, viable cuttings. So that was quite a feat. But, you know, like I've been scaling mothers forever. Like I was pretty sure on that plan. Like,
right.
It's still impressive to see it on that scale. Like, that's the biggest scale I've done it at.
It's the scale of it that's impressive.
You know, but sure. I had no doubt we were going to crush. It's just getting the guys in tune, the guys that haven't been cloning for 10 plus years, 5 plus years, even a couple years, you know. So
right.
Getting them all on the same page, that's the biggest thing, is the consistency of it, is having your watering times consistent and, you know, not slacking on a tray and they droop on you and then they lost a little vigor because of that. Like, those are the things that we're trying to automate a little better for next year. Like, we're talking about doing some racks that will flood and drain so you can hit 4, 5, 6 trays at once, versus, you know, a guy taking a tray, right, going to a tote, dunking it, putting it back, you know, right, trying to wring it out a little bit. And that should definitely help us. It'll definitely save us labor. That's a promise.
I like saving labor. You know? That's good. Clones have been a struggle in Michigan. There's no, you know, in California, there's huge nurseries that put out quality clones. Yeah. You can buy clones inexpensively. Here, people really like safeguard their genetics. They sell clones for really expensive, and the health of the clones hasn't typically been very good. And then the clones that you guys were putting out this year, everybody who bought them was really happy with them. And I went in there, they were fucking thick and healthy. What did you guys do differently than other people?
I mean, 20 years experience. Charlie's experience, yeah, you know, and then just shifting the guys, guiding the guys in the right direction to, because you know, if you got the knowledge, but you can't do that by yourself, 20 plus thousand. No. So you got to get your guys on point, and that's the biggest thing. And they did. Our guys killed it. Like, they crushed that mission. They had a couple hiccups. Like, we were worried about heavy metals in the rock wool, so we were paranoid and went to Oasis Cube. So it was like a fucking big medium change right as we're at the peak of clone production, and it was like,
I remember that.
You know, they had a little hiccup because they're a little more less forgiving than the Rockwool is, for sure. And I'm a Rockwool guy, so it was a learning curve for all. And it ended up working out. We definitely had a little bit of loss, but nothing major. Once we dialed it in, it was more so missing a watering window is what kind of hurt us, right? So figuring out those schedules was key to the production. But man, they were hitters. You know, every single person that we sold clones to was happy.
Yeah.
I mean, our neighbors put in 2,000 plants, and they, you know, in July 23rd, I think they planted or something like that, really late.
Yeah, super late.
And they ended up with some 4 and 5 footers out there. They also had some short ones too, depending on variety. But, you know, they salvaged a season. They scraped a little money off of their first initial year, which is, you know, you can't say that if they would have got clones from someone else, what would have happened, right? Like,
right. Put some shitty clones in the field, shocked already.
Yeah, and plus
lose weeks.
Yeah, we gave them to them way staged out. So we propped in our indoor facility, then we moved them to the greenhouse, then we moved them outside, so they were like fully hardened, ready to rip.
Ready to go, yeah.
They just crushed for him, you know. And for a guy who has never grown a crop, like, they were pretty successful minus the plant time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's to say if you had given them clones straight from an indoor, they wouldn't have just gone and planted those fucking things and have them get scorched?
Yeah, and you know, there's some clones will be fine, some won't. It's all variety dependent, so there's that. But yeah, it's totally a possibility you fucking get clones from someone. Here you go, and they fucking put them out there, and they all die, and then they call them like, "What the fuck? Your clones suck." No, you're just retarded.
Right.
You know.
Didn't harden them.
So
set them in the shade for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and I didn't really understand what he was doing at the time, but being up in the hills and Daniel fucking moving plants under the trees and then moving them back out, and then under the trees and then back out. Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense now, but back in the day, I didn't really understand it.
I've seen clones go right out. I put clones right outside, and they've done fine. I've also put clones right outside, and they'll bleach. It's the frost that gets you.
The frost will get you, yeah.
Out here.
Out here is for real. And the weather is changing so much. What are you guys thinking about for next year? It's like right now, it's fucking mid-November. Yesterday it was like damn near felt like 70 degrees.
I know. Next year, I'd like to spread out our plant spacing a little bit and get out a little bit early, at least for the biomass portion of the field, and then for the live and flower, we can stick to our regular scheduled programming, and so our yields were fine there. And the more massive you grow a plant, the more wood you got, and like all your lowers are going to be dog shit. So what are you really taking for flower anyways? You're taking top. So why put all that energy, nutrient, time, labor into growing that crop when you're just going to peel the top off it anyways, I mean, yeah, you can grow some massive plants, but it'll just go to the biomass, but the biomass ain't worth shit anyways, so what are we really doing, right? Like,
yeah. And at a certain point, growing massive plants becomes kind of a fucking headache, right?
Huge headache.
It's a lot to take care of. The trellising is intense.
Harvesting becomes a nightmare.
Fucking ladders.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. What's ideal, you think, for this like row crop style growing outside?
Like size wise,
Yeah.
I like a 6x6 plant with a foot or two in between without them touching would be perfect.
Yeah. And they were touching a little bit this year, huh?
We were growing into each other a little bit. Some were, as Charlie describes, kissing. Some were hugging. So.
I fucking love Charlie. That dude's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. Good dude. He's definitely elevated my game, and I think we've both elevated each other's. Cause he super tripped out when he saw like my style of growing at first, high density, hitting them pretty well with nutrient and letting the nutrient stack in the medium. That's a fairly newer technique that he wasn't privy to, but he was like blown away at like the health and the vigor of the plants. And he's taught me so much about IPM that like that was a huge game changer for me, is seeing how he works the IPM schedule and program.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. That dude's got some serious like bug knowledge.
Yeah, that's the real scientific shit.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
All the fucking bugs and.
Oh yeah.
All
the scientific names, he's on point with those.
Absolutely. Rattle off a couple of fucking real wordy things like that. And it sounds really smart.
But man, I mean, the stuff works, and the old days of spraying Avid and Eagle 20 and Floramide are done.
Yeah,
those have been long gone.
They have been long gone.
So, we didn't know any better back in the day.
No, it wasn't
everyone was doing it, right?
Everyone was doing it, yeah.
Right. So
there was no bad intent with it, for sure.
Right. Exactly.
It's like back in the day, you used to dump toxic fucking sludge into the lake.
Right. Exactly.
They probably knew it was bad.
They knew that was bad. Yeah. But yeah, once everyone found out, hey, that this stuff's carcinogenic, you probably shouldn't be smoking, everyone stopped.
Yeah. Most people stopped.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You guys ran some tests this year that I thought were interesting. You ran a side-by-side in the greenhouse, cocoa versus Rockwool. What's the verdict?
Rockwool hits, man.
Rockwool hits, passes testing. It wasn't the heavy metals from the Rockwool.
Nah, we think it was that Futurola machine that really, because we only popped bad for heavy metal on that double driver keef.
Right.
So who knows? The flower passed.
Right.
The keef didn't. What happened there? It was a newer machine. Chromium and nickel are like the #1 ingredients in stainless steel.
Right.
So, and that's what we were popping for. So, kind of lead your eye to that piece of equipment that did it.
Futurola. What do you think about the testing standards out here?
It was definitely a learning curve at first, 10,000 CFU on your TYMs and for med, and then 100,000 on rec. They're tricky. Your dry building needs to be on point. So like what I like to do is get them out of the danger zone as quickly as possible. What I consider the danger zone is anything above 60% humidity, and we were achieving that this year for outdoor smokable flower. Pretty much we're only spending about the first day in the danger zone, and then we're getting under 60% humidity, which is pretty huge for TYM testing.
So kind of flash dry and then adjusting it.
Exactly. You just want to get it down below that 60 as fast as you can, and loading up the room with dehus and AC is the way to do it.
I was impressed because I thought that was going to affect the terp profile. I thought it was going to affect the fucking feel. And
I mean, it shouldn't, because like ideal, everyone knows is 60-60, right?
Right.
If you're floating at 70-60 on your, 70% humidity, 60 under your temp, technically you're out of range anyway. So
Right.
like if you get it down to that 60, why would it affect your terp profile,
Right.
So that's my view on it, like common sense, logical view on it anyways.
Yeah, and you guys managed to pass testing on our outdoor flower this year, which I don't know of anybody who's done that in the state of Michigan.
Fucking passed med testing.
Yeah, without remediating.
Without remediation and without a sketchy lab.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty fucking wild, because if you're not in Michigan, there's a bunch of sketchy labs here because the testing standards are out of control.
Yeah.
And somebody may or may not have been talking to a sketchy lab in case, and the fucking legit lab had passed the testing before. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was floored.
Yeah. No, it was pretty awesome. It was like a huge morale booster for us.
That was huge.
That was a big feat for sure.
Do you think it has a lot to do with that on-target sprayer?
It definitely has to do with that, but I think most of your problems come in the post-harvest in the hang.
Yeah.
The hang is everything. It's controlling that first day.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. And that's a huge piece of knowledge for us, moving into the legal market, It's going to help us through every facet of our cultivation, operations, indoor, greenhouse, outdoor. If you can keep out of that danger zone, then you're pretty much guaranteed, as long as you aren't like covered in powder mold or something,
Right.
But if you're covered in powder mold, you got other problems,
For real.
Yeah.
What? How many years did I know you before we figured out that we grow?
Man. What, maybe
There's at least a couple Thanksgivings, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think on the second Thanksgiving, you asked me how my season went.
Yeah. I think Lucy had told me. She's like, "Oh yeah, Chris does this too." It's like the old days. People don't really talk about what they're doing. There's no communication, and I'm married to his cousin, and so we had existed at family gatherings for years without ever talking to each other. Just like what's up, just in passing. And then it was like once we both figured out this is what we're doing, it's like, oh, all right.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool because you have one of the best noses of anybody I've ever met. Like, you're a fucking bloodhound bag sniffer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I love weed, so it definitely helps that you love something. You're going to be into it and pay attention, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've smelled more bags of weed than I have. I've smelled a lot of bags of weed, but I don't, for whatever reason, I don't have that fucking, like, desire in my brain maybe to lock in that smell and associate it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's definitely an association, right? Like, even if something's crossed with something, you say, oh, it has a hint of this in it or a hint of that, or I can see that that's its parent or, mother or father in the lineage. Even grandparents, sometimes they, come through strong, which is pretty cool to see. But it's definitely an art, I guess.
It is an art. You're like a weed sommelier, right? It's like hints of leather and dark chocolate.
I mean, not necessarily like that. I just more associate to old strains, right? Like early day strains. And the terpene, that's one thing I would love to like really be on point with, is like associating certain terpenes with certain varieties of weed, I think that's pretty cool to this has limonene in it, or that's an obvious easy one, but a lot of them are still, I look at that list and I don't know what half the shit is.
I don't know what any of them are.
Right.
I'm a fucking idiot.
It's one thing. It's hard to associate it though without like product right there. So you read it, oh, it's on the list, but which one am I smelling
right
according to that list? It's tough, you know. You almost need a scratch and sniff board to go along with it or something, you know.
You know, the other thing that you have like a fucking encyclopedic knowledge of is the strains, like you're talking about, and the fucking parents and where these strains come from. How the fuck do you develop that?
I mean, just time and interest and, you know, a lot of years. And then I know a lot of growers too. That's the other thing is you walk into all these different gardens and you see all these different varieties over the years, and, you know, you're smoking a batch from him and this guy and this girl or whatever. And that definitely helps you develop the sense of smell and association with each plant.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because, like, if I try to go, you know, I came to the farm one day when you were there and Cameron from Wonder Bread was there. I couldn't even talk to you guys because you don't speak the same language as me.
Right. Yeah, it's Terpenese.
Terpenese, I like it.
California and Michigan are very closely palated, right, with cannabis. So, like, candy's really big now. Gas is making a resurgence. But, you know, anything with Z in it is pretty much what people want to smoke. If they know better, right? If they don't know, they don't know. But once you introduce them to that terp, they're going to be, like, lifelong hooked. I don't know how anyone can not like that terp. Like, it's amazing. Simply amazing. Like, the best thing smoking.
The best thing smoking. Is that what Marcus wants to use for all the?
I mean, Marcus is a huge Z guy. You know, that's why we align so much. You know, but that dude. You
guys speak Terpenese.
We speak Terpenese as well. Yes, but that dude, his palate's even better than mine, which is like, and I love it because I learned stuff from him. You know.
Yeah.
And that dude's deep rooted in it. You know.
Yeah.
And he's in that area that stuff was all bred in, so it's kind of lucky for him to have that resource there, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's really
and it's lucky for us.
Comes from the heart of it, and we're lucky
Yeah.
that the stars aligned and his thing in California it worked out the way it did, and that he was looking for a new deal. Because I think we're gonna put out some really exciting stuff.
Yeah, we blasted a strain that, dare I say, might be the best thing smoking in Michigan.
Really?
Like, it's insane. You got to come by the farm.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I still haven't seen him, so I got to go by there. I also got to get him over here to talk.
Oh, yeah.
Chop it up. Talk about coming to Michigan.
Yep.
What do you think's gonna be hot next year, though?
That's so tough. You know, for something to gain traction is the tough part. Like, there's probably so many hitters out there that nobody knows about because they haven't gained traction, right? So that's the tough part, is getting it into the right people's hands.
Right. Who's going to put the marketing dollars up?
Who can
put the weed in the right people's hands?
Who can produce it at a big enough scale, at a good enough quality, or a great quality, to actually get people to like that terp or whatever flower it is, you know?
Z terp, that's Skittles.
Skittles.
Change it to the Z.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that was the next biggest terp in my eyes. A lot of guys that want to say it was cookies, which cookies had there's a lot of stuff bred to cookies, but Z was so different, right? That's the thing. Like, Kush is that earthy, gassy, sometimes lemony, depending on the cut. And Skittles was not fruity. It was a candy terp. So that thing really changed the game. Like, it's lip smacking, you know, is the best way to describe it. And that's the other thing too, like all these different cuts of OG. When we first got OG, it was just OG Kush. It wasn't like SFE or Tahoe or any of this. And then being in the circle that I was in, you would see all these different growers growing it over the years, and it would come out different out of everyone's garden. Someone would be a little more lemony, some would be all gas, like mine was typically all super gassy.
Different cuts or different growing styles, or
just different environments, different rooms, different irrigations, different mediums, different everything.
Interesting.
You'd see big pots, small pots, rock wool, flood and drain, deep water culture. I mean, there's tons of different grows, and it would all come out different in every one of them. always pretty good depending on the grower, but definitely different out of everyone's garden. And it's kind of cool to see. You would see some guy would awake certain terpenes in his setup that you wouldn't, you know? And I think a lot of that, you know, who knows? OG is so mysterious. But I think a lot of that kind of led people to, oh, this is this cut and this is this cut. Who knows really? Like, why is there an SFE and a Tahoe and a Fire and a this and a that? But I think a lot of that has to do with everyone's different growing environment, different rooms. Like Yumi could grow the exact same cut and they're going to be different, you know?
Right.
Similar, but different.
Fire OG always smelled fruity to me.
I never liked the Fire myself. I wish I had the old cut, man. I'm like super sad about that one being gone.
Did you grow the same cut for years?
Years, yeah, over a decade, yeah.
That's impressive. Did you always have it, or you just had a group that managed to keep it alive?
I got it from my boy that was, his brother owned a hydro store in the East Bay. And I actually really lucked out. So my best friend, George, you know George?
Yeah, I know George.
Shout out G.
Thanks for the pistols.
He lived in San Lorenzo, California, and the house next to him was a rental. Well, these people moved in, and it was my boy Ant who owned a hydro store. He wasn't my boy when he moved in there, but
Right.
you know, hanging out with my boy, we met them, we smoked, and you know, I went and bought my first light from them, and it really kind of blossomed into a relationship. I ended up running one of their stores for them. But they got the OG from one of their other customers, really good customers of theirs, and then, you know, we kind of all got it, and we all rocked it forever. It was one of those things, like I said before, why would you grow anything else at the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, wish we still had that one.
For real. Man, I mean, I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. It's been quite the journey out here.
It's been an interesting one, a good one though. This is an awesome place, and honestly, I'm glad we're here and not California.
Me too.
You know.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you, man. Cool.